Sick of the TCG? Yeah, me too. Let me introduce you to Histlander. Histlander is a custom format that's the best attempt yet at balanced cross-banlist play. Each best of 3 match is played with 2 decks. One apiece from the classic era of Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Rule 3 and earlier, and the modern era of Yu-Gi-Oh! Amended Master Rule 2020. To build your decks, you pick any 2 consecutive years and build a 30-card minimum Highlander list using any cards printed in the TCG during that time frame. There's a couple of caveats to this. For cards that have received functional errata, they're played using the version of the card that was legal at the time they were printed. So for example, any deck using 2005 as one of its years could play Old Sangam. Normal monsters and any card that references copies of itself isn't bound by the Highlander rule. So for example, Synchro Cat can play 3 copies of Reborn Tengu. And finally, the player who wins the die roll can pick either the era in which you start, or if they're going first or second. I've been lucky enough to play in a few of their weekly charity locals, and I can honestly say it's quickly become my favorite alternate format of all time. For anyone who still likes what Yu-Gi-Oh's become, but definitely misses the back and forth resource grind of 2010, this format is absolutely for you. If this is something that sounds up your alley, the very first free Histlander monthly cup will be held Friday, June 12th with 48-hour rounds, and you can bet I'll be competing. The TO, my personal friend, and former Speedlord Meatmoto27 will be donating $10 to the Minnesota Freedom Fund per participant in this tournament, so we could very easily drive him into bankruptcy. He's also putting up extremely cool prizing in custom mats, field centers, and the like. There will be a link to the Discord in the description, which is also where you can get deck building help, see an overview of card legality, and get a good idea of what you can play and how you can play it. But of course, an explanation alone won't do it justice. The best advertisement I can imagine for a format where Teledad is exactly as playable as 2003 hand control would be showing off some games. We're going to start things off with 3 matches in the Classic era. These 2 decks are some of the best the format has to offer. 2005-2006 Monarch, which has access to not only a significant amount of GOAT staples, but also Cyber Dragon, and Synchro Cat. If you're unfamiliar with Synchro Cat, get excited. The Synchro Cat player is going first, not surprising as the Monarch player wants to have things to tribute. Unfortunately, they'll set 1 card and pass it back. A Thestalos off the top is fine, they're going to get in with a Tribe-infecting Virus, and then pass it back to their opponent. For turn their opponent draws, Brain Control, that's excellent. They're going to fire off the Brain Control, pre-errata of course, before normal summoning an Arabellum and going to battle phase. Arabellum's effect will activate, putting a card from their opponent's hand from the hand into the graveyard, before enabling a Synchro Summon of Urbellum. They'll pass it back to their opponent, who draws for turn a Book of Moon. They'll specialize Cyber Dragon, and then tribute summon a Thestalos, taking the Reborn out of the hand, walking over the Urbellum and setting a Book of Moon before passing it back to their opponent. For turn their opponent draws the Cat. Rescue Cat will fire, it'll get a copy of Elefun and XX Saber Dark Soul before activating Premature Burial and going for it again. One thing you find out pretty quickly, Brionac plus Rescue Cat plus Premature Burial is a recipe for disaster. Thankfully the Monarch player has a Book of Moon, so no more shenanigans for the rest of the turn. Catastor will get rid of this copy of Thestalos and pass it back. A Monster Reborn is a fantastic rip off the top, Tribe-infecting Virus is a fantastic out to Catastor, and they'll walk over this copy of Rescue Cat while they're at it. They'll pass it back to their opponent, who will activate Scapegoat at end step. Oh shoot, that's terrible news if your opponent's aiming to Synchro Summon. They draw a Cold Wave for turn, they're going to normal summon a copy of Pashul before Synchro Summoning a Naturia Beast and walking over the Tribe-infecting Virus. Tiff, unfortunately, is one of the most effective ways to out Naturia Beast in this deck, so the Snatch Steal will unfortunately be met with the activation of a Naturia Beast effect and the Brain Control as well. They're running low on cards, but not on life points. This looks to be the end of the game for the Goat Monarch player. For turn, they draw a copy of Mind Control, does very little with no monsters on the field, but should be enough to seal it up regardless. They draw a Sinister Serpent, again pre-errata, but unfortunately Mind Control can take monsters that are face down, so after activation of that, an attack in with this copy of Naturia Beast, that'll be the end of the match. When you think of individually powerful monsters from classic Yu-Gi-Oh's history, if Dark Arm Dragon isn't jumping to the forefront of your memory, buddy, you must have been born after 2010. This is a take on Teledad, the classically powerful deck, using a Blackwing engine to facilitate additional dark monsters in the graveyard. It's playing against a much more all-in version of the XX Saber deck. The XX Saber deck is going to set a copy of Giant Rat and pass it back to its opponent, and a lure off the top is fantastic, and they'll go ahead and banish a copy of Demok before summoning a copy of a Blackwing, attacking into the Giant Rat and prompting a Rescue Cat. That's going to prompt the Lightning Vortex in main phase 2, and then a pass back to their opponent. For turn, they draw a copy of Dark Hole. Wow, look at those spells. Monster Reborn is going to bring back this copy of Rescue Cat, whose effect will activate, getting both an XX Saber Dark Soul and an XX Saber Arabellum for a copy of Goyo Guardian pre-errata. They're going to special summon this Blackwing back and then pass it back to their opponent. Pretty much any deck that can can be playing Synchro Cat probably should be playing at least a little bit of it. They're going to lead with a copy of DDR, a fantastic grip with a DMOC in the Banish Zone. They're going to activate DMOC's effect to bring back this copy of Lightning Vortex and fire it, wiping the board and specialing the big boy himself. He finally came back from the cigarette store. We'll pass back to our opponent, and though the XX Saber player is way down on life, they are way up in cards. They'll activate Dark Hole, clearing the board, and then attacking directly with Sangan. Things are looking very, very grim for the Teledad player. They draw a Call of the Haunted. That might just do it, based on what the next draw is. They'll go for a Gallus, and a spell. Always seems to happen to me as well. They're going to set one card and pass it back to their opponent, who draws a Mind Master for turn. They're going to activate Call the Haunted to activate Armageddon Knight's effect to send a copy of Malicious to the graveyard, then special one from deck. Then they'll normal summon a copy of Mind Master. What 8 could... Dark Strike Fighter over the Sangan! That does 1600, and then in main phase 2, they'll be able to activate the effect of Dark Strike Fighter for lethal. For our final match of Classic, I want to showcase what I believe to be the most powerful deck in the format in its entirety, Chaos Dragons with a Dark World Splash, versus a deck that makes fantastic use of the Unbound principle, Dino Rabbit. Let's see which deck comes out on top. The Dino Rabbit player is going to lead with a normal summon to Sabersaurus and 3 set traps. Stun! An Eclipse Wyvern off the top is fantastic. We'll use a Foolish Barrel to send a copy of Light Pulsar to the graveyard, triggering the Eclipse Wyvern to banish a Red Eyes DMD and bringing back this Grapha. That's going to be met with a Bottomless. Great news too, because that card can get way out of hand way easily. The Light Pulsar walks over this copy of Sabersaurus and is immediately met with a Dark Hole afterwards. Tour Guide into Sangan. Remember when this was the most powerful thing you could possibly do with this engine? Make Zenmaines pass? It's 2 removal spells! An Honest is added to hand, not very powerful with no lights on the field or in the hand, but no big deal. They're going to normal summon a copy of Sabersaurus off the top of the deck. That triggers the Sangan and allows an add of Card Trooper of all things. Okay, well, let's see what we find off the troop. Card Trooper is going to be activated. 3 cards off the top, baby! And nothing. Okay, they'll attempt to walk over this copy of Zenmaines. It detaches 1 material, and at end step will destroy the Card Trooper, drawing a card which is... Gores! Okay, Necro Valley found just a little bit too late. They're going to attack directly with this copy of Zenmaines and with this copy of Sabersaurus, and then Gores comes down with a token equivalent to the damage that was just taken. 1600 life points is all that remains, but it should be enough. We're going to lead with a copy of Charge of the Light Brigade, and add a copy of Lila to hand. We'll normal summon the Lila. That's met with a Solemn Judgment. Fantastic news, because now we can bring back the Light Pulsar and attack over this copy of Zenmaines a couple of times. A Fiendish Chain on the Light Pulsar is frustrating, but not the end of the world. Gores putting in a ton of work here. Our opponent's going to go for the attack, and unfortunately, get blown out by Honest. So it's time to make the move to modern Yu-Gi-Oh! The decks in this format are more powerful, more consistent, and hit harder than any of their predecessors ever could. This match is between DDD and Lunalite Shadow. Let's see who comes out on top. DDD has an okay hand. They're going to lead with a copy of Savant Copernicus, sending a copy of Lamina. Next, they're going to activate Swamp King in order to fusion summon a copy of Flame King Genghis, and bring back this Lamina, triggering its effect to bring back a copy of Necro Slime. That's going to enable a Synchro Summon of Formula Synchron, which draws a Dawn 1000, which draws a Chaos King. Okay, well, looks like Siegfried is going to be it. They're going to lead with a copy of Shadal Fusion that fiends the Siegfried negate almost immediately, and from here it's smooth sailing. The Shadow Lunalite player will activate Fusion Recycling Plant, triggering the effect of Serenade Dance for a copy of Kaleido Chick, as well as the Trick Clown in the graveyard. After that's been summoned and 1,000 life points has been deducted, Kaleido Chick will send a copy of Martin to the graveyard, who will put the Kaleido Chick back in hand to special summon itself. Lunalite Fusion will make a Saber Dancer, and then the effect of Crimson Fox will change this Siegfried's attack to 0. Fusion Destiny is another great way to get Shadows in the graveyard. Beast will draw them a card, and then afterwards they'll normal summon a copy of Keeper of Dark Magic, activate the effect of Bigfoot, pop that Siegfried, and this is... well over lethal. 36, 18, and just kidding, they're going to flip up this copy of Dark Contract of the Witch in order to destroy this copy of Dangerous. That'll send it to the graveyard, as well as the Apocalypse, and then at end step, they'll be able to activate the Apocalypse's effect by popping their 2 face-up spells and traps. Okay, well, it's going to be a hard road to finish this one out. Draw Guy is going to enable an additional draw off the top, but, oh my god, Pot of Desires, they could do this! They'll draw 2 cards, fire off and Into the Void, very few cards in deck, normal summon a Glow Up Bulb, activate Where Art Thou for a copy of Kepler. They're going to activate Necro Slime in order to get a copy of Dragonbane onto their side of the field. They'll bring back this copy of Glow Up Bulb and then activate Swirl Slime's effect at the graveyard, a special to Savant Kepler, and oh my god, still in the deck is Dark Contract. They're going to activate Dark Contract with the Gate in order to get a copy of Savant Newton, use its effect to get back this copy of Dark Contract with the Swamp King, and who could they possibly Oh my god, Oracle has Piercing. They'll get over for 3,000, and then when Perform Age Trick Clown triggers, they'll attack it again for lethal. Now I know what you're thinking. I've played Highlander before. It all just evolves to a meta mash of the most powerful cards in the format. Don't worry, combo players. You can still play uninteractive Towers Turbo. Just let this Adagnister pilot school you. Their opponent, who's on DDD, is going to lead with a copy of Allure of Darkness, normal summon a Cerberus, and pass. Okay. Well, they're going to lead with a copy of Balancer Lord and activate its effect for the extra normal. They're going to extra normal a copy of Picari. That's going to prompt the Witch from their opponent, who will send the Balancer Lord to the graveyard. No big deal. From this position, they'll special summon a copy of Hiyari, and then link summon a Cyberus Wicked. That's going to trigger the Unbound Parallel Exceed in the hand. They'll special one from deck and trigger the effect of Wicked, banishing the Balancer Lord, triggering its effect afterwards. They'll special summon a Baruru from hand in order to send an Achichi to the graveyard, then activate Alimbershan's effect in order to add an addition to hand. After that, they're going to activate the effect of Addition in order to special summon itself at a zone and make a Code Talker. That's going to enable a special summon of a Gachiri, a special summon of a Splash Mage, a return of a Baruru, an activation of Idol Reborn, an activation of a Chi-Chi at Ignister, and then after all that is said and done, the arrival at Ignister has arrived. Pot of Avarice falls it up in order to refill the hand, and an upstart goblin into a Called by the Grave is just about as good as it gets. They'll destroy this copy of Cerberus, and then the token will become a Lingaribo. They'll attack directly for 5,000 and 300 afterwards, daring their opponent to take any actions whatsoever. For turn they draw, a copy of Twin Twister. A little late. They'll fire off the Twin Twister to pop this copy of Called by the Grave, but that's really all they can do. Well, time to BM. We're going to normal summon a copy of Doyon at Ignister in order to add the Hiyari back. We'll activate Arrival's effect, turn that into a token. We'll special summon a copy of Converter and the copy of Hiyari that we just added in order to make Dark Templar. We're going to use it and the Microcoder to make Access Code Talker, and then trigger a whole bunch of effects in Graveyard before destroying our opponent's last remaining card and getting in for well over lethal. For our final match of Modern, I'm going to showcase two decks that I hate with every fiber of my being. Pendulum versus Snowsworn. God, am I happy we no longer have to deal with Fairy Tale Snow. The Snowsworn player is going to start with a copy of Goblinberg. They're going to special summon a copy of Unizombie from hand, then activate its effect, pitching this Mizuki from hand, and then overlaying for a Minerva. The Minerva will mill, wow, a glow-up bulb and a snow. What are the chances? Next, they're going to activate Monster Gate after special summoning back this copy of glow-up bulb, and then activate the Mizuki in graveyard, getting a Unizombie, activating its effect to send a copy of Spirit Master from the deck to the graveyard, and synchro summoning a Psy-Frame Lord Omega. In standby, they will put this Mizuki back for next turn. Let's see what Pendulum can do. Well, they're going to lead with a copy of Ashutta, which prompts the Omega. Oh, I missed! Afterwards, going to activate the effect of Snow, and then in the Banished Zone, trigger the effect of Spirit Master to destroy the Vashutta that's on board. That's going to prompt Spell Power Control. Well, on the activation of Endymion, there are now 3 counters on the board, so they'll go ahead and activate the effect of Endymion to get an Empress, Big Boy is banned of course, and then activate its effect to put this Minerva back where it can safely stay and not trigger its effect. They'll activate Foolish Burial afterwards to set up for future Tenyi plays before activating Servant one more time, and then proceeding to battle phase. They will crash into this copy of Snow and trigger the effect of Empress. They have a huge Pendulum summon coming up next turn, so the Snowsworn player has to win right about now. They're going to lead with a copy of Reinforcement of the Army to get a copy of Raiden. Afterwards, they're going to normal summon a copy of Raiden. What do they find off the top? Oh, shockingly, very little. Okay, afterwards, going to Mizuki out a Unizombie, sending a Solitaire to the graveyard this time. Next, they're going to overlay for a copy of Minerva. They'll activate Minerva's effect, milling 3, one of which is a Damage Juggler. Fantastic. They'll activate Snow's effect now that they have enough in the graveyard, and Solitaire's effect, bringing back this copy of Spirit Master. They're going to special summon a copy of Hat Tricker to go into Ptolemaeus, which is legal, before going into Nova and Infinity. They'll activate Monster Reborn for this copy of Fairy Tale Snow, and while they can't attack because of Unizombie, they can proceed to battle phase, prompting the Jurigato and the Cyber Dragon Infinity afterwards. Fantastic bait. They'll pass it back to their opponent, who for turn draws, a miserably bad card. They'll put this Mizuki back in the graveyard, normal summon a copy of Magister, which prompts the Omega, no cards in hand, Spellbook of Knowledge activated. Unfortunately, in the Pendulum Zone, will prompt this copy of Cyber Dragon Infinity, and I think that is likely going to be the end of the game. They'll pass back to their opponent, who for turn draws a copy of Regeki, just a little bit too late, proceeds to battle phase, and gets in for 1850, 2000, 2100, and well over lethal. So that's that. If you want a format that seamlessly bends the playmaking ability of modern Yu-Gi-Oh! With the resource management of classic Yu-Gi-Oh!, give Histlander a try. Links to the free tournament, decks used, and Discord will all be below. Hope to see you there.